There you go. Thank you very much for the opportunity again. And Jasper said tonight is our last session on, well, for the year. And I'm looking forward to sharing some ideas with you. As you can see, it's quite an interesting topic we're going to discuss tonight. You can read it either way, with or without the comma. How to set your goal, how to set your agenda for life, or you can see it, how to set your agenda for life. I will be talking to you about the relationship between agenda and time tonight. You will find it interesting. I've got basically three phases in this session which I want to share with you. And I'm not going to tell you which one is which, but here we go. I want to talk to you about the agenda for your life. So I think the first thing I want to, basically make clear is when we obviously talk about agenda, we're talking about time. And we have got so much time. When I say so much, we've got so little, but we've only got so much time to complete our agenda. So the first letters of the word agenda, you'll see spells the word age. Don't know whether you've noticed that. It's a concept which often involves organizing and planning events which can be associated with the passage of time or stages in life, reflecting the idea of age. That's what I've written down there. An agenda typically outlines, as you know, I mean, we have got, I think we have, most people have been in meetings or actually prepared their own agendas for meetings. But tonight we're going to make you a business person and get you to do an agenda of lots of things, but specifically of your life. And you can use these principles in your business meetings as well and see how far close or how off the topic people can talk when they talk about agendas. An agenda typically outlines a set of items or events to be addressed within a specific timeline, time frame, or emphasizing a structured and time-bound approach to tasks or activities. You do not have unlimited time when you have a meeting, and you don't have unlimited time for anything. So you need to be focused when you, in fact, set up what you have the meeting about or why you do need an agenda. It's a time, and I'm saying this, time is a conceptual framework that measures the sequence of events, the duration between them, and the intervals during which they occur. Now, in Afrikaans, they got a very interesting, I couldn't find it in the vocabulary or in the dictionary. In Afrikaans, they got a very good way of expressing what time is all about. They say, tyd is die verbysnel van oomblikke, which means time is the passing of moments. There's a sequence, which is chronological, obviously. Now, let me talk a little bit about using the acronym, because I'm going to use the acronym for agenda to help you set your agenda for life. And obviously, as I say, using the acronym for life, after you've seen the light, there will be an aha moment. They talk about wow, and we're talking about aha. In Afrikaans, they like saying that, and if you look it up, you'll find this is actually coming from a very good definition, which I've discovered. It says an aha moment refers to a sudden realization, an insight or understanding that is often accompanied by a sense of clarity, enlightenment. It's that moment when something becomes clear to you. Maybe you've worked on it in your subconscious mind and you've been sleeping over it. And one moment, one day, you wake up and your subconscious mind just brings you, everything just is crystal clear to you. It's a new perspective gained, leading to a heightened awareness or comprehension of a situation. So that wow moment, aha, it's the same as, Edison when he says, what did he say about the light, Jasper? I think he said, Eureka or something like that. I think that's what he said. Right. So we're going to talk about agendas, but we're specifically going to talk about your life. Let me tell you in advance. And everything you see, and you can apply these principles in every meeting that you hold, or in fact, any meeting to see how close people get to, what the meeting is all about, because they can waffle a lot. Okay. So when we talk about your agenda, I think you have to, about your life agenda, you've got to look at your priorities, your core values, and your aspirations. Could be in any order. It could be aspirations, core values, and priorities. But tonight we're going to test it. You will not be able to see everything there, but what you can read there is from top to bottom, vertically, you'll see it says agenda. And horizontally, you'll see aha. Now, I've played around with this to just give you certain characteristics of an agenda on the one hand, and also what we should be considering when we work through setting up an agenda. And the agenda is not for meetings, official meetings only. It's the agenda of your life. Now, there you will see on the vertical side, on the left-hand side, you'll see age, and then I've got a little bit of a line there just to remind you. We're talking about age. It's an age agenda, right? And the aha moment is obviously horizontal. Now, I just want to show you how amazing this principle is, because if you look at the A, you will see when you do an agenda, you've got to actually put on the agenda what you are aspiring to. And what are you aspiring to in your life, for example? What is your ambition, or what are your ambitions? And then obviously, when we talk life, we talk God. We talk God and we talk goals. We talk growth and we talk guidance. You'll find this very helpful later on as a bit of a pocket reminder as to what we discussed, because we always say words have meanings. I'm sure you've said it yourself. Words have meanings. It's not quite true. Meanings have words, because you can't look up love in the dictionary, and if you haven't experienced it, it'll mean nothing. And so with sorrow and all those things. So meanings have words, and when you've experienced absolute joy, then you'll understand when you try and read what somebody describes joy as. It's an amazing feeling. We all experience that. But at the same time, what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to give you a mind map of what we're going to talk tonight about. It will really help you a lot, because it's helped me a lot over the years. A bit of a mind map. We've got to aspire to something. There must be an ambition. God, goals, growth, and guidance. We'll talk about that a little bit later, and you'll see an illustration of what, just to put into practice what we are talking about. The E stands for engage. You have to engage people, and you also have to be engaged. You've got to be committed. We're talking about envisioning. We're talking about embracing, executing, and we're talking about efficient and effective. So it is important that we have enthusiasm. You know what the word enthusiasm means? It basically is made up of two words in Greek, meaning entheos. Entheos mean to be filled with God. If you didn't know that, that's what they mean. That's where the word comes from in Greek. Entheos, to be in Christ, or to be in theos. That's basically what it means. Right. So if you're enthusiastic about something, it will always get done. So you got to engage. You get engaged to this topic or the project or whatever. The N stands for nurturing. You got to nurture this this project. So this is part of you got to navigate. There must be no negativity or no doubt or no uncertainty as to what you are taking, where you're taking people when you hold a meeting, or when you are in fact have a meeting with yourself or with the Lord or with your children or wife. You can talk casually, but sometimes you got to look specifically and see what we're trying to convey. So if you want to convey, make sure that people buy in, and that you buy into what you say the agenda of your life is. Now, the D, obviously, as you got it there, it's very simple. You got to develop something. There's something to be developed. whether it's a development of property or whether it's a development of your character. Direct. It's got to be direct. There's got to be a direction there as well. You got to try and make a difference. Otherwise, you're just doing more of the same. You've got to do it, and you got to do it daily, especially life. When we talk about life, you've got to get up every morning, and you normally have the same set of values, and you don't know it because they are tested. The principles in your frame of reference. I know I'm talking a bit abstract for a certain moment here, but I'm sure just follow me. We'll get to the practical stuff just now. And the A is obviously, the last A stands for accept. You got to accept and action that agenda so you can do something, so you can move forward in order to achieve. So there you have, it's quite a mouthful. When you look at the other words, you can put it in there, but those are the words that came to mind. As I say, it's a bit of a mind map. Now, in order to get to the aha in our lives or anything we do, they are basically under the H, and you'll see it starts with an H. You got heart. I put a little picture there of a heart, which is your core. The core values or your core will actually drive you. And that is what your heart does. Your heart drives you, not your mind. Your heart, in fact, the invisible you inside of you will, in fact, guide you to where you want to go. And the head or the mind is where you are doing the thinking, where you're envisioning. I've actually coined a word called mind vision because you see it in your mind. Sometimes you don't see it in your physical eyes, but you see it in your mind's eye. You got to have a plan. And ironically enough, sometimes you have headaches. I don't know whether you get headaches sometimes. Some people are really battling with headaches. But, when you have headaches, there's a reason because you're probably not picking up the signal about whether you should sleep more or whether you should rest more, or maybe just take a break. So headaches, we always say, well, I've got a headache. Well, not physically always, but this is where I stuck the word ache in. So we got to realize that sometimes we have headaches physically and sometimes mentally or emotionally. So the mind is very important. It's a computer. It's an amazing computer which runs everything. Your psychological system, your nervous system, and everything else, that. And then health. What I've done there is I've actually just reminded you, in order to achieve your agenda, you always got to look at your resources. And your resources include your physical body. You must look after your body because the soul without the body, what happens then. Now, physically, and then mentally, spiritually, and also financially, you have to look after your resources. So that's what the H is all about. You'll see why I say that. Because at the end of the day, when we get to the end of the session, you will understand the word agenda, and you will be able to say, aha, and it will drive you forward like you will not believe this. Now, on the extreme right-hand side, we got the final A with an exclamation mark. You got to acknowledge what your agenda is all about and the final resting place. When are you going to be successful? So it's just driving on. You got to know when you get to the end of your journey. You got to allocate resources. You got to know that you got to allocate resources. It wouldn't just happen by itself. You got to anticipate what the end result will be. We're talking about visualizing. I'm not going to go in there. That's something else. But it's interesting. If you don't visualize your goal, you'll probably not ever be able to see it when you actually stand in front of it. So you got to ask God, what is your life all about? And you got to ask yourself. God will actually ask you, what is your life about? And then you got to understand that you got to acknowledge, and you got to allocate resources, sometimes money, sometimes time, sometimes energy. But the point is, the intellect plays a big role, and that's where your mind comes in, which is driven by your heart. What I've found is you've got to be very careful not to get too anxious and have a lot of anxiety in your system, and even stay away from anger. The reason why I'm saying these things is this is what life is all about. You got to avoid. It doesn't happen by itself. You'll have interruptions in your life. And you actually have this daily. Some people drink pills, other people go for a jog, and other people just run away. So when you've got anxiety and a lot of angst, you've got to look after yourself. And then you've got to look ahead. It's important that you always, it's no use just looking back. You've got to take history into account when you want to see where you're going, but you must always keep your eye on the ball. Having said that, I'm sure you got the picture. You can go through it again. Now, without going into deep detail, because you can go and read that yourself, you will find that, Maslow has made a study. He's looked, they call it the Maslow's hierarchy, as to what people need. And then what I've done is I've gone further. I haven't just looked at Maslow's needs hierarchy, but all the other credible studies and observations, and we listed and commented on some of these most important human needs. But we have to keep in mind that we are complicated vessels. God has made us amazingly well. He's given us so many things to help us along the way and to help us manage ourselves and our lives, and physically, and even help other people. But if you want to have a look at this list, I'm just going to just go through with it. There are 10 of them. This is not my list. This is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and it's a useful framework for understanding us as humans, our needs. But it's important to consider that other credible studies and observations have also brought something to the party. So have a look at the needs that we have. There's a reason why I'm just building up to an application a little bit later now. You got physiological needs, and these are the most basic needs: food, water, shelter, and basic health. Meeting these needs is essential for survival and well-being. We all know this. Second one is safety and security. People require physical safety. It's no use just giving them emotional things. They've got to be physically secure, financial security, and so on, protection from harm. And this includes access to stable environment, job security, and so on, personal safety. Third one is social security. Social security, humans are inherently social creatures, and the need for social connections and relationships is crucial for our mental and emotional well-being. You know this. I'm just putting it on a screen there, which you can go and study for and maybe do some research. Your esteem and your self-worth is so important. I wrote a book about your most valuable asset, which you will discover is you. It's not your house or anything else, or your job even. Your esteem and your self-worth is so important. This involves the need for self-esteem, confidence, and the recognition of one's abilities and the contributions you make. Then there's the one about love and belonging. I've got, in my office here, I've got a little, almost like a number plate, a slogan here in my office which says, "I belong to Jesus," for example. Interesting thing, because we all need to belong somewhere. And many years ago, as a matter of fact, in 1983, when I was a pastor in Potchefstroom, we had a youth outreach. And I think they paid R2 those days for the people to make the number plate. And on it, it was against a white background, and it was written in black. "Ek behoort aan Jesus. I belong to Jesus." Now, we need to belong to somebody, because otherwise we're lost. Beyond social connections, humans are also need to feel loved, cared for, and a sense of belonging in both personal and community contexts. That's why people want to WhatsApp with you and pull you into a group and so on. Can't you come to this club meeting or church meeting or whatever? Then the last 5, you got cognitive and intellectual stimulation. We can't just eat. We need to be stimulated intellectually. Humans have a natural curiosity and need for mental stimulation, which includes opportunities for learning, creativity, and personal growth. Then there's self-actualization. You need to find that, at least people can recognize me. I'm growing. This is the realization of one's full potential, including personal growth, self-discovery, and pursuing meaningful goals and passions. And that's what we're talking about tonight, to set your agenda for those things. Autonomy and control. People need a sense of control. If you feel that you're out of control, then it's a problem, because things don't work for you then. The ability to make your own choices and the autonomy to shape your own future. And this is what make us different from the animal. We can make our decisions. The second last one is our emotional well-being is critical. This includes emotional regulation, coping with stress. Tell me about it. You know about it as well. Mental health. And today we know this is one of the big problems in South Africa and the world. People are not well mentally, especially after the pandemic. Emotional stability is essential for overall well-being. And then finally, you won't believe it, finally, and in the 10th place, spiritually and meaning. I was quite flabbergasted when I did research, and I found that they put this one at the back. Some individuals seek a sense of purpose. I think we all do, actually. But spiritually, people don't always know where to look. But we are spiritual, vessels. God has given us a soul, and we got a spirit. So it's important that we understand we can't just do, eat and drink and, go somewhere and grow. Right. So having said that, not going to touch on everything there, but let me just tell you what happened in Genesis 28. We find Jacob running away from his brother Esau, because he's been dishonest. The story about him trying to, he was an imposter. He told his father that he was Esau, so he could actually inherit and get the blessing. So he actually got found out, and he ran away. He fled. And when he was in the mountains, he found he was becoming hungry. He got lost there. He was lost, and he started thinking about, I don't know whether there was alcohol or anything involved there, but he came to his senses and said, whoa, I've got a problem. So what he did is eventually he fell asleep. And there, you remember the dream. Go and read Genesis 28. There was this ladder and the angels and things going on there. And then he woke up in the morning and he thought, wow, this is, God must have been in this place, because I'll call this, this is a place of God. So he called it, what is it? I think it just slipped my mind, Bethel. Yes. So after this profound, I'm just reading from what you got there. Profound experience, Jacob makes a covenant with God, vowing to serve him and tithe. Remember this. This is interesting. First, he was fearful of his life. He gets his dream, and the first thing he does, he says to God, Lord, I'm gonna make a covenant with you, because I see you are good and you're big, right? He says, in exchange for God, for your protection, he bargains with God. He says, if you look after me physically and I don't lose my life, I'm going to pay a tithe of everything in exchange for your protection and the fulfillment of my physiological and safety needs. So Jacob essentially promised to serve God. This is the way it says here. To serve God in return for God's providence and guidance. And this is the story that you got to always remember. What is most important here? And I'm saying at the bottom there, you can read in between, there's some stuff there as well. The two aspects that come out in this conversation with God that came to me the other day is, are you fearful or are you hungry and naked? Because that's the important thing. It's no use losing your life and then become hungry. And hungry is important, but what happens on the afterlife? I saw something recently where people say, is there an afterlife? Well, of course there's an afterlife. But people have been imagining about this, and they don't even believe the people who came back. So what I'm saying is, I'm also a bit of a realist. I don't believe everything and everybody when they say, well, they've received this from God and so on. So I'm just saying these things so you understand. The first phase here is, first of all, remember, there is an agenda in your life. You got to see where you're going. What have you got ambitions? What do you do with your resources, your money, your time, your energy? And are you excited about it? What is that aha? And has it dropped that you actually have a goal, that you actually have a purpose in life? Or you're still looking for it? Tonight's going to help you a bit to find it. Right. There again, we're not going to go through the details, but I'm just going to read the 10 items there in order to facilitate a focused life. That's what we want. With clear goals and objectives, I've established a technique or instrument to facilitate this process. You will find it amazingly simple, and it will probably haunt you for a couple of days if when you think about this, and it will be a good haunt, so to speak. Okay. So if you want to create something like a checklist or something, first of all, you got to define your goals. I'm just going to read you the highlights. You got to you can look into the define your goals, break down your goals, how to, look at your objectives in getting there. Looking at your priorities. You got to remember time is of the essence because we're talking an agenda. There's a limited time span here. We're talking age. We're all aging. I'm 72 and you are moving on. I'm almost 72 and we're moving on. So we got to we don't have all the time in the world. Even when you went to school, you heard the alarm going off or the sound and, it was time to move on, the siren. Prioritize. You got to manage your time properly. You got to monitor and evaluate whether you are on your way towards your goals. You got to stay accountable. You got to be accountable to God, and maybe get some people around you whom you trust. You can actually speak to, so they can give you input in your life, from their side in your life. Eliminate distractions, and there are so many with all these gadgets and so on. Self-care is important. You got to look after yourself. One day, somebody else might look after you in a care center, but today and tomorrow, you got to look after yourself. You got to be flexible when you have such a checklist or an agenda. There's got to be consistency. It's not, every day you have a different agenda. And then, of course, you got to reflect. You'll see the heading there is reflection of reflective life assessment. You got to actually think and meditate on these things, mindfulness and your reflection. And then finally, you need to get guidance. Maybe it's a psychologist, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a pastor, maybe it's a good book, but you need this. Now we're moving towards the application phase now. So I've said two things. First, there's an agenda. We need to, in fact, think about what our life is all about, what we intend doing with our lives. Now, in order to help you, I don't know whether you got a piece of paper there. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And I did warn Jasper about this. We're not going to say anything in between. I'm going to completely keep quiet. And when the 3 minutes are up, I will, in fact, talk again. I'm going to give you 3 minutes. And in this 3 minutes, you are going to write down, in your own words, very briefly, what are the things you still intend doing with the time that God has given you or is going to give you for the rest of your life. In other words, to put it very simply, list all the things you still want to accomplish in your lifetime starting now. You got 3 minutes. You can list 10 things, you can list 20 things. Go ahead. 30 seconds. Right. Now, what I want you to do is, you got lots of things happening in your life, and there are things that you've listed there. Could be 5, 10, 20. I don't know how quickly you wrote there, but we should have given you half an hour, but we haven't got that time. What I want you to do now is rank those things in the order of importance to you. Make sure that you can see the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If there's 7, there's 7. If there's 10, there's 10. Obviously, you don't have to write a sentence. You just, jot down the principle there. So I'm going to give you a minute to just rank it quickly. Prioritize what is most important to you as far as when you want to do this and so on. Order of importance. While you're doing that, you'll see I put this up on the screen, something which I discussed previously in the year. The control center, your heart, your mind, your senses, and your goal, or your goals, and that you need resources, money, time, energy, and all these other things to access. And I explained at the time that your heart, in fact, drives you towards your goal, but it in fact uses your mind, your heart, your computer. The control center is your heart. It drives the mind, and it shortcuts often the senses. It goes straight to your goal, your money, time, and energy. But obviously, you can add the senses there as well. To if it's something physical, whether it's a house you want to build or business or something, read up on it. So having done that, we started off there with lots of things that you want to still do. It looks like a bit of a haze and a maze there, but right. Now, having done that and realized that, obviously if you are going to drive that agenda, if you're going to do those things during the course of the next few years, hey, you just prioritize this. Certain things become more important. And we're talking about physical things, spiritual things. We're talking about the things that your life was going to be all about. Right. Now, here's a surprise. Just when you finish this and you go to bed tonight, an angel appears to you during the midnight hours, 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and tells you have only got 24 hours left. You got 24 hours to live. It's guaranteed. You won't fall sick, and you won't be able to extend it. You can't see a doctor because you're not going to know what's all about. Why you're going to pass away, why you're going to die. So you're going to have 24 hours from the moment that you wake up to, in fact, reorganize your life in such a way, because you're going to have 24 hours, you're not going to sleep. 24 hours, and then it's going to be all over. You must now look at your list and your priorities that you prepared, and I'm going to give you 1 minute to rearrange that, because 24 hours is not long. There you go. I can't talk in your sleep almost now and tell you you're going to be full of anxiety, and you'll go back to your list and anxiously attempt to reprioritize them in order to match your 24 hours that you have available, to fit them all in there. And then you'll discover you can't. And you're going to start throwing things away. and you're going to change, and you become very anxious. You won't have a minute. You'll have probably the whole 24 hours if you want to use it. And you'll probably be in such a state that you'll drink some medication, but this is now irreversible. And as you work and rework to rank the items listed in the order of importance with your time restriction, you realize it'll be impossible to fit them all in the next 24 hours, but you try to in any case. Right. And then at the end of the 24 hours, the angel appears to you again and announces that this was only a test, not a joke, just a test, that you have been given to organize your life effectively, and that you now have the rest of your life to work on your list. How's that? The rest of your life, it could only be 24 hours or 24 minutes, who knows, but the rest of your life, meaning we don't know, we can't quantify it, but suddenly you're so relieved, you're grateful, you're overjoyed about the second chance that you have to live your life, and you realize that you have discovered how to live your life in a more focused way for the rest of your days. That's what this exercise is all about. You should from now on always concentrate, and this is the important message I want to pass on to you. If you organize the first 3 items on your list as the most important, while working also on the other 7 items that you listed, if you had 10, you'll find that you will focus much better. You will discover God plays a role there somewhere. He will probably be very important there. He will probably be the central figure in your planning, because you only got 24 hours left. What made Jacob so scared is not only the fear. He didn't know what happens after death. And this is what actually people try and talk away and drink away and forget about. They keep themselves busy with lots of stuff because they don't want to think about the physical death, never mind what happens after that. So this is quite a shock. If you had time and you could really think yourself into this state, you would really be a bit of a nervous wreck by now. Okay. But if you start focusing, and focus I've already told you before, and there is a slide I'm going to give you just now, which reminds you of focus on Christ, you'll succeed. I want to just show you here. Focus on Christ. You'll see, you'll succeed, you'll survive, and you'll serve. Here you will also find the notes that I've just been reading off now. How to reflect on your life, how to assess your life, the processes I've just gone through with you, so you can see focusing on Christ, on the eternal worth things, do make a difference. Because what they do is they give you the center person or the central event in your life. And remember, some time ago, I think it was the last time I was talking about what are you living for, unlocking your life's meaning. Go and look at that video again. There's some stuff in there which you will rediscover when you do this exercise. What are you living for? And then finally, without going through all the detail there, you need to understand that this is a simple technique which God has given me many years ago. And every time I applied it, we've been talking about in the 90s, late 90s. I could see people had to go to, they had to excuse themselves because they were so frightened. And that was not the idea. And I used this to show them that money wasn't the most important thing in their lives. Okay, it was definitely not the most important thing in their lives, but they thought so. So some tips which you'll find there. How could you actually apply? And I said there with reference to the 24-hour checklist, this is something you can go through at your own time. And your objective to focus on the most important things in your life as a follower of Jesus Christ. What would you do to apply this technique in your life in a practical way to prioritize what really matters? How would you incorporate it in your daily life? And I've got some tips there for you. Ensure you got a prayer and a reflection life. Spend time meditating. Seek spiritual mentorship. Regularly review your checklist. It's no use writing it down, changing it. Make sure when you change it, it's worthwhile. You just, tomorrow it's a different list. Regularly review your list. I'm just going to read you what I wrote there. I said, continuously review and update your list to ensure it remains in alignment with your evolving goals and values. Life circumstances change and your priorities may also shift a bit. Look at service and ministry. As a follower of Jesus Christ, you also got to start sharing. Some ideas to start a gratitude journal. Alongside your checklist, keep a gratitude journal to acknowledge and express thanks for the blessings in your life. Say thank you to God for what you got. Share your priorities with other people. And because you say it, you'll probably connect with it again and you'll fix it in your mind. Share it, talk about it, do it. Adapt your technique to your faith. Depending on your faith, how your faith life, make sure there's always room for revisiting this. And of course, don't forget scripture and study the word. And that's what I'm trying to say tonight. My wife and I, we want to wish you the best for the coming year in every beautiful way, at your home, at your work, financially. And remember, I've done that soul story with you, which is my story about what my life is all about. You have a story. Please do not forget to remind yourself of what that story is, because your story is important. Thank you very much, Jasper and everybody else. God bless you as you work through these notes again and find some focus in your life. Thanks.